I can tell you that in the last few years of my political evolution, I've consistently found conservatives to be tolerant and open-minded.
Will you bake Rubin a wedding cake? Okay, so, I mean, my answer is...
Well, I'm married already.
Right, he's married already.
But an anniversary, it was my anniversary last week. An anniversary cake would have been nice.
Right, so the answer is no. And the reason I won't is because as a religious Jew, I do not participate in activities that I believe are sinful.
I've covered Dave Rubin a fair bit on this channel, not too much in the last year or so, I'd say. But I wanted to cover this as sort of like an extension of my previous work on him. Because if you were around on YouTube in like, I don't know, early 2010s, literally 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013, Dave Rubin was actually a progressive, a guy who had his own offshoot show on TYT, the Rubin Report, the same Rubin Report you see now. I'm not sure if you still can see them, but sort his channel by oldest clips and you can watch a lot of clips from his progressive phase, and I might play some of them for you today. Now, why I wanted to talk about him is that he recently announced with his husband that they're both going to be fathers via surrogates, and they're going to have 2 children. Now, of course, Dave Rubin has really dismissed any illusions of even being a centrist or a classical liberal, as he used to like to call himself, and now he's just like a straight up conservative. And on his channel, platforms like literally some of the worst conservative people in America, and you guys all know what I think about American conservatism, in that it's not just, you know, a right-wing ideology, it's a far-right ideology. So then it's probably not surprising for a lot of you that when Dave Rubin talks about this stuff and opens up to his audience, his new conservative audience, about this stuff, that they don't like it, and they don't like him, and they don't like this stuff, because at the end of the day, conservatives will use grifters from groups of people that don't traditionally align with them. So in Dave Rubin's case, a gay married man, and they will tolerate you so they can say, well, you know, we're not bigoted, this person supports us, this person supports us, and they actually say the left is the problem. But at the end of the day, they will tolerate you, and maybe some of them will actually tolerate you and not actually care about this stuff. Some conservatives genuinely don't seem to care about these things. In the UK, a conservative government and a conservative prime minister passed gay marriage. But the broader movement will never accept you, and I think that's what we're seeing here. So plenty of Dave's friends and other conservative influencers were all congratulating him, all praising him. But then a lot of just like random Twitter accounts were completely hating on him. So today what we're going to talk about is basically just Dave Rubin's grift, talk about the backlash to this stuff. I mean, I just want to go into other people who do this, like, you know, Caitlyn Jenner, Candace Owens, and how the right will never actually accept you, even if they will tolerate you for a bit. So before we go any further, if you want to support the channel, please like the video, maybe comment as well. If you want to support me on Patreon, I want to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible, and you get my Nintendo Switch friend code, and you get access to the private patrons Discord server. Give me a message on Instagram or Twitter if you sign up, because like I said, I'm having problems until the end of the month sending links out on Patreon. So if you want to get access to these things, you're going to have to message me. I apologize for that. Also, follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter and Instagram. Subscribe to my second channel, the Kavernacle Extra, where I archive my live streams, and also join our community on my subreddit. The link is in the description. So before we go any further, I just want to give my own experience of Dave Rubin's content. So like I said, you know, I used to be a big fan of the Young Turks, probably about, you know, since 2010. I still like them a lot, especially, you know, Anna Kasparian's views align very much with mine on loads of things, even though Jenks don't really in some ways. I still really appreciate their coverage, and I feel like their channel has been a big influence on my own politics throughout the years, and I've actually really liked the whole network. Like, if you guys remember, What the Flick was their like movie and TV show review channel, and Breakfast All Day is basically like the legacy version of this, which is done by the same people, and I watched all their movie reviews, and there was lots of good stuff on TYT in general. So yeah, I still watch them to get my American news. But Dave Rubin used to feature a lot on the main show, and he used to feature a lot on his own show, like I said, the Rubin Report, which was a TYT like spin-off show, and it basically covered the same things, but I guess a bit more like pop culture-y. And I think he bought the channel off them and then went out on his own about 2015, I believe. And the main thing for him and why he left TYT is because he massively disagreed with Cenk about Israel, and he disagreed with Cenk's conversation with Sam Harris, which I actually covered last year. You guys might be interested in that, to see like how that's aged, because I used to agree with Cenk, then I agreed with Sam Harris when I went through my atheist phase, and then I agreed with Cenk again as I've become obviously like left wing, still an atheist, don't care about new atheism at all though. And then slowly he just morphed more and more into a right winger. He would mainly platform right wing guests before he just basically became a right winger, allied himself with people like the Blaze, took like Koch brother money, regular on Fox News and things like that. So just like an out and out conservative. Now I do consider Dave Rubin like a straight up grifter, because I do not even believe intellectually he's a conservative, in that he's not like a Ben Shapiro who's like this zealot and like really believes in what he's saying. He just really comes across as someone who's insincere and is like a polished media personality who just regurgitates conservative opinions. And why they like him so much is in part because he is a gay man and he can speak about like stuff to do with the LGBT community, and he can lend some, I guess, legitimacy to the criticism as he's part of that community. And that's why they tolerate him, at least the media class. And like I said, I don't believe maybe a lot of the media people actually care he's gay and married, but a lot of their audience do. And in part, that is Dave's own fault, because he platforms people who spread this propaganda, which in this episode has come back to bit him, because loads of people are now firmly against him, believing he has gone woke or he's helping them lose the culture war. So here's a video Rubin posted on his channel, and he just talks about how he started his family.
Yes, we are expanding the family, but, you know, I have a belief that when you do things, you don't just go, you go big. So 2 babies, people. 2 babies are on the way. I know most of you guys that are watching this are now on the more conservative side of things, and I never see any real issue with conservatives anymore and gay people. And Trump was the first time president to run being, pro-gay marriage. And I think most people just kind of want to live and let live and all that. But I know this is like a little bit weird for some people to hear, right? I get it. And by the way, to me, at some level, this is a little bit weird. Like, I've had to learn a lot of stuff and go to a lot of doctors, and it's cost a lot of money, and it's been a long sort of adventure. Definitely easier if you got a man and a woman involved. I don't think we have to do, 6th grade biology for you, but it's 100% easier if you can go that route. You have to be a very special person to want to carry someone else's child, right? Like you are the vessel to help create life. These 2 babies on the way, and people keep telling me I'm going to make a great dad. We shall see.
Now, I can't see the dislikes, but it has 2.7k likes, so seemingly at least part of his audience tolerate this stuff. And I do love the way he frames a lot of these things as like not to offend people, talking about like how it is like weird for people and things like that. So I guess pretty normal explanation of this stuff and talking about these things. The YouTube comments are quite bad, but they weren't like overwhelmingly negative, and that's why I want to get into the Twitter reaction to him posting this with his husband, because this is where it is overwhelmingly bad, and the ideology Dave is grifting for, again, clearly does not like him, as it's been evident with a lot of people saying to his face, like Ben Shapiro, that he does not agree with his sinful lifestyle. So because Dave Rubin is like, one of these right-wing Star Wars nerds who seemingly misses the whole point of Star Wars, it's true, all of it. I guess that's a reference to Han Solo's line in The Force Awakens, one of the worst Star Wars movies. Immediately, one of the replies is, how does this help us win the culture war? Then PragerU saying, congrats, Rubin report. So like I said, a lot of these outlets support him. Then Mark Dice, another conservative influencer, saying, from marriages between a man and a woman to this in just a few years, to PragerU, Blaze TV, obviously he's very affiliated with them. Congratulations. Also, wow. Another comment, what happened to your Judeo-Christian values? Do you think Moses would be sending out congratulations if he was living today? They say to PragerU, Dave Rubin. Congratulations on doing whatever you think is right in your own eyes without considering the cost to the children, the mother, or society. Shameful, Prager. Appalling. Now I turn to look meaningfully at everyone. I warned that Dennis Prager was not as deep or sound a thinker as he insisted he was. PragerU would be considered radical left 20 many years ago. Wow, is it all just about politics to you? This is morally reprehensible. It's a sinful rebellion against God's design. Remember when conservatives were against everything they support 5 to 10 years ago? Seriously, Dennis Prager thinks designer babies, intentionally separating children from their mother, and womb rental is okay. Just lost a ton of followers. I must say, as an avid PragerU Prager supporter, I am befuddled by the support. I like Rubin too, but just as I don't celebrate out of wedlock births, I cannot congratulate this either. So responding to the Blazers tweet, do you care at all about the implications of this? American conservatism is progressivism going the speed limit. How is your support of this helping the culture war? Mark Dice again saying, this is horrifying, buying women's eggs and then renting out other women's wombs to grow their children and instead forced to be raised by 2 gay men as theirs. Any Christian or conservative congratulating them is just as bad as the Marxists. Why are the conservative leaders in this culture war all staying silent about this? I won't mention any names because there are too many to list. Then he lists a bunch of names. I thought we were protecting the children and nuclear family. So I think when stuff like this comes out, it shows you the split in the American conservative movement. Now, what conservatives around the world are often very good at doing is unifying together just to get power, and they put their differences aside. But with things like this, they often show themselves, where you have people who are like Christian conservatives, but they care more about like the conservative like culture stuff, or maybe just like the economic side a bit more than the cultural side. So they don't really care about stuff like that. And you saw that with the Brandy Love trying to go to, I think it was like a Turning Point conference last year, where some people like really didn't care. And they're like, you know, welcome Brandy Love, where people like Charlie Kirk really did care, because what you have is like you have these religious zealots in the conservative movement, really fostered by Ronald Reagan in the 1980s to win his re-election in 1984, and they have essentially in recent years taken over the party more and more. A lot of their followers, although subscribe to like general conservative ideology, they also have the hardcore evangelical movement. Remember, Trump got the most evangelical votes of any Republican nominee ever, and that should tell you something about the modern conservative movement. But Trump also attracted a lot of people who didn't care about religion. Trump clearly wasn't religious, didn't care about religion, so a lot of people just jumped onto him, and again, didn't care about that side. But this generally comes from a more conservative Christian ideology. So there's a lot of people saying Dave Rubin like deserves the backlash, and just to get into that, I don't think, like, deserve is a weird word. Like, do I want a gay man to be harassed for starting a family? Of course I don't. But again, did he delude himself with talking with loads of conservatives who maybe didn't really care about that stuff, that most conservatives would accept him, when in reality most conservatives won't accept him? I hope he actually thought they'd accept him, because maybe this is a waking up moment for him, that platforming all these people who say all this awful stuff about the LGBT community, telling the president's son he can call you a slur if he wants, and generally spreading this ideology that is extremely hateful to the group that you are from. Hopefully maybe he wakes up and realizes, I was just doing this for money, but I didn't actually think it was that bad. Maybe he was too stupid. So I'm an empathetic guy, and this clip genuinely makes me cringe. It's Dave Rubin trying to explain it to Glen Beck, and just like, you guys won't see this because I probably won't play the video of it, but like the look of his eyes and like the kind of look in desperation of him trying to explain to Glen Beck, like a very religious guy, why this is like, I don't know, okay in conservative ideology is really interesting. And like, as a human, it makes me feel bad for him, but then I kind of remember all the awful stuff he's done as well.
I get why the right has these, what I would argue are often legitimate fears, because the left does not stop eating civilization.
Correct.
And think about what an unfortunate position that puts us in, because then someone like me can make an announcement like this, then good, decent, thoughtful conservatives, some of faith, maybe some not of faith, whatever it is, could reach out and say, boy, this is what an interesting opportunity, and sure, it's a little different, and whatever, all the love that you and the Blaze guys and everyone else are giving me. And then there's this other part that's legit, which is, uh-oh, if we move the line, they're going to keep going. And I don't know what the answer to that is.
Dave.
I honestly don't, because that has nothing to do with me and how I'm going to live my life.
I think, and this is why I wanted to have you on, because I don't have an answer. I am, you know me, I am a deeply religious man, and my religion says man and a woman, that is the basic building block of family. We're probably the clearest church on this, because it's been in our doctrine for 200 years. So we're very clear on that. but that's marriage and relationships, and that's what I believe. But I also am. I also know God created you just like He created me, flaws and all. I believe I have a gene, they've never found it, that makes me very susceptible to alcoholism because it runs in my family. So does craziness, but it runs in my family. The same thing with things that I don't understand. And if we can't have a conversation about things that we don't necessarily understand and probably won't until we get to the other side, we have to just work it out together and be able to say, Dave, I disagree, or I don't know what the answer is, but I love you.
So very classy by Dave Rubin there to, I don't know, attack the left for pushing the boundaries too far. The boundaries that have been pushed far enough that you're allowed to have a family as a gay married couple. Again, kicking the ladder when you've made it to the top is so ridiculous, while talking to a man who says he disagrees with your entire lifestyle. Again, this is what is sad, is that this guy is obviously so greedy for money, he will take this. It reminds me of Ted Cruz accepting all those insults from Trump about like his wife and his dad, and then still campaigning for Trump to win the election. It's like, do these people have no shame? And like I said, the look in his face, it's clearly something hard to listen to all these people telling you like, I don't agree with you being a parent, when he might have thought they would agree with it. The people saying like, you reap what you sow for Dave Rubin. And then I do not know how to really feel about this, in the sense that like, of course, he has promoted these voices who have said this to his face, and undoubtedly he has made the situation in America worse for people in the LGBT community, including people just like him. But then, was he naive enough to think that conservatives really wouldn't turn on him? Now, here is a video he did for PragerU talking about how conservatives are more about live and let live, and they don't actually care about you. It's the left that want to like police your lives. Maybe he just confused conservatism with libertarianism. But let's take a look at this clip quick.
The right, according to the media, is intolerant of everyone. There's only one problem. It's just not true. Incredibly, the left isn't even tolerant of the very people they say they're tolerant of. I can tell you that in the last few years of my political evolution, I've consistently found conservatives to be tolerant and open-minded. Don't take my word for it, though. Test it out for yourself. Go talk to some. They do exist, and they do things like watch movies, travel, and eat ethnic food. You know, regular people things. You know what I found out? The right, much more than the left, believes in the notion of live and let live. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the true definition of tolerance.
So, of course, Dave Rubin is a massive grifter, so it's really hard to even know what he believes and what he doesn't. Like, he has always been like this enlightened centrist type, so maybe he did believe genuinely the conservative movement is more tolerant of your, I guess, personal views or your lifestyle, as they like to call it. But again, he's caused so much damage by saying stuff like this and being this like token gay conservative man who constantly punches down on other people in the LGBT community. But again, it's not like he was completely naive to this. Here is Ben Shapiro twice telling him that he wouldn't even attend his anniversary party for his wedding. And Ben Shapiro actually doubles down twice, saying he does not agree with Dave Rubin's lifestyle.
Will you bake Rubin a wedding cake? Okay, so I mean, my answer is.
Well, I'm married already.
Right, he's married already.
But an anniversary. It was my anniversary last week. An anniversary cake would have been nice.
Right. So the answer is no. And the reason I won't is because as a religious Jew, I do not participate in activities that I believe are sinful.
And he would have done it kosher, the whole thing, man.
Yeah, now I feel bad.
He would have done it for you.
You got me this close.
Putting that aside, you can't have David's kosher cake now. If we were having an anniversary party, would you come? If I was inviting all the crew that we all know, and we were just an anniversary party, we're just having a party, and I'll even throw in some kosher food for you to make sure you don't have to bring your own food.
You know, honestly, I'd have to think about it. I'd have to think about it in the same way. So
that's interesting to me, because that's a different thing.
Well, not really, because again, if you're a religious person, and again, take it from the religious perspective. From the religious perspective, the question is, are you glorifying something that you think is sinful?
Yeah. I think I may have moved you on coming to an anniversary party? What do you think about that?
I think there's a possibility. I mean, I'd have to think about that. Again, the issue, as you know, not to get back into well-trod territory, I think it would be unlikely that you'd move me, but I can never rule out the possibility of being moved on anything, obviously. And again, this comes back down to the difference between approving of activity and approving of human beings. I wouldn't, if you invited me to a party on Friday night, I also wouldn't go, right? I mean, it's just not something I do.
So definitely not a Shabbat anniversary.
A Shabbat
party.
anniversary, I think, probably is out, yeah.
A Sunday afternoon.
A Sunday afternoon gay-ish anniversary, or maybe just, how about you just have like a freaking barbecue, dude?
So Dave Rubin's chum, Ben Shapiro, saying that he wouldn't even go to his anniversary party because Dave Rubin is gay and is married to a gay man. And isn't that lovely? One of your friends apparently will not do this. And that's just really pretty sad, because if he was still a liberal, a left-winger, even a centrist, pretty much everyone would accept this. Loads of people would be happy for him, and his audience would, I guess 90%, probably more, would be happy for him. But because he has gone for this conservative grifting gravy train, I would say that most of his audience do not like this, do not agree with this, and think what he's doing is like a sin or something to do with religion. And it's just like another symptom of these people, I guess, maybe finally realizing or really seeing something they all know, is that these people do not actually like them and will not accept them. And while they might tolerate individuals sometimes, they're not going to tolerate loads of people like this. And I think this whole child thing and children thing proves this, because they don't like all these gay men having families and having children broadly. They don't like gay marriage broadly, but they probably accept Dave Rubin because he doesn't talk about it loads. But when he actually posts this, and I'm even surprised he even posted this on his Twitter, you then see how they really feel about him. So while I kind of feel bad for him on a human level, Dave Rubin has been happy to play this part of gay man who criticizes gay activism. For example, in 2013, and hopefully I have a clip for you here, he boycotted Capital One, shut down his account because they did adverts of Alec Baldwin, who went on a bigoted rant against gay people.
Okay, I want to talk about Capital One just to close this thing. So Alec Baldwin, he does those over-the-top commercials with Capital One. Capital One has not issued a statement. They've actually ignored dozens of my personal tweets, and they've ignored thousands and thousands of other people's tweets and emails and comments. And I know people from Forbes magazine and others have been trying to reach out to them to comment, but they've ignored everybody, which may beat to Vanessa's point that you still can say things about gay people and companies don't have to do anything. I actually called Capital One a couple times. They hung up on me twice. The third time, the rep said that he was on vacation, so he didn't know what was going on and that they couldn't get me in touch with anyone else. So I have paid off the tiny bit that I have left on my Capital One credit card and will no longer be using it. And
good for you.
Little something, right? It's a little,
absolutely.
yeah.
So he did that activism. So clearly he cares about this stuff to some degree. And I think he was 40 years old in this clip, or maybe 37, 38 or something. So he clearly cares about that. But when people were protesting Chick-fil-A, or however you say it, about how they were donating to loads of Christian religious organizations that had an anti-LGBT agenda, he was getting mad at people and saying he would still eat there. So within the space of 5 or 6 years, he completely changed and was happy to play this role of, I'm a gay man and they do not offend me. They're a company who can do what they want. And actually, I will not eat there. And when they actually switched to donating to pro-LGBT organizations, he then said he wouldn't eat there. So again, perfectly happy to play this role of actively damaging LGBT causes, and he wants to have his cake and eat it too. He wants to completely separate himself from the larger community and the civil rights battle so many in this community have fought for a long, long time. He wants to have the benefits of the marriage, of the children, while at the same time trying to kick the ladder away for people who maybe don't have that ability to have those children or get married yet. And his influence can help roll back the clock on some of these things, as we're seeing with conservative attacks across the UK and America. Conservatives are waging a culture war on LGBT rights. And it reminds me of so many different conservative politicians or grifters. For example, we have a Home Secretary in the UK called Priti Patel, and her parents migrated to the UK, and she has enacted migration reform that would mean if her parents tried to come to the UK today they couldn't actually get in based on the laws the government she's involved in have passed. And that's just like the definition of this thing, isn't it? It's like you get to rise the ranks thanks to like previous laws or your parents' hard work, and you would kick away the ladder your parents use to ensure you became one of the most powerful people in the UK. Now, this also applies to other conservative influencers and grifters. Now, I talked about Brandy Love a bit earlier, but also Caitlyn Jenner is a big one. So in terms of like even the transgender in sport thing, she actually came down on the side of more like left-wing people, talking about how this is like not really an issue or anything like that. But when she started campaigning to be governor of California, she completely flipped. Now, she started promoting loads of conservative policies because Caitlyn Jenner has always been a conservative, but then she was met by someone harassing her at one of these events who was dead naming her and chasing her essentially out of the building. And again, you don't want anyone to go through such awful harassment and awful abuse, but you just hope it makes people realize that grifting for this ideology that does not see you as equal to anyone else, which actually sees you as lesser than them and often sees you as some sort of abomination, or some sort of degeneracy. I hope Dave Rubin and Caitlyn Jenner both realize through these experiences that doing this stuff is not helpful to even you as a person, because these people do not want you to have these rights. And a lot of these people do not want you to exist in the first place. Candace Owens is probably like an even more gross example of someone who is just like a total grifter, because someone who sued their school board for like discrimination when they were like 17, going from that to saying basically systemic racism doesn't even exist in America, and just being like this absolutely massive grifter. And then it was funny when the Super Bowl halftime show came out and she said a lot of good things about it, and her audience completely turned on her, saying like, how could you talk about this like woke ideology and think it was good and all this different stuff. And that's because these people stoke this culture war, side with the conservative right and all these issues to hurt people just like them. They do it for money, clout and influence. And I don't really know too many people who have gotten to this conservative gravy train and conservative grifting train and actually come off as a result of all this harassment. But again, like I said, I don't want anyone to go through this. But if you are fostering an environment where this becomes more tolerable and this becomes more accepted and this becomes more mainstream conservative circles, then you're of course doing immense damage to people just like you. And with a lot of conservatives, they actually have to experience something for real to actually take it seriously. So I hope with these conservative grifters, when they face this backlash, they actually realize the audience they're cultivating do not like them. And it's just like endlessly frustrating that so many people do this, and that is just like capitalism, human greed, and these people just often just being horrible people, not caring about who they hurt in their pursuit of money and wealth. Because Dave Rubin has become a very wealthy guy based on his grifting, something he would not have become if he was a left-wing YouTube host or a liberal YouTube host and a bad comedian. And again, with all these grifters, it's really, really hard to see where their actual beliefs end and the grift begins. But anyway, that is it for the video. Again, obviously not nice to see anyone getting harassed in this way based on their sexuality or based on their race or gender or anything like that. But again, some people thinking it's like sweet justice. Based on all the damage Dave Rubin does, the only thing we can hope, I guess, is that this experience softens him up and pushes him away from the conservative movement. Not that I want him ever to be around left-wing movements or liberal movements. I just want him to like ride off into the sunset and like shut down his channel and go live his life or whatever. But I have a funny feeling based on his tweets and his videos going back to normal, he is gonna stay a conservative grifter. Anyway, let me know what you guys think of this situation down in the comments. If you want to follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to support my work, check out my Patreon. If you want to join my community, check out the subreddit. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.